Ben Folds, Benjamin Scott Folds, born September 12, 1966, Folds was the frontman and pianist of the alternative rock band Ben Folds 5 from 1993 to 2000 and again in the early 2010s during their reunion. He has recorded a number of solo albums and performed live as a solo artist. He has also collaborated with musicians such as William Shatner, Regina Spektor, Weird Al Yankovic, and yMusic, and undertaken experimental songwriting projects with authors such as Nick Hornby and Neil Gaiman. He has frequently performed arrangements of his music with uncommon instrumentation, including symphony orchestras and a cappella groups. In addition to contributing music to the soundtracks of the animated films Hoodwinked and Over the Hedge, Folds has produced several albums, including Amanda Palmer's first solo album. Folds was a judge on the NBC a cappella singing contest, the Sing-Off from 2009 to 2013. Since May 2017, he has been serving as the first artistic advisor to the National Symphony Orchestra at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. In July 2019, Folds published his first book, a memoir titled A Dream About Lightning Bugs, A Life of Music and Cheap Lessons. Early life and career. Folds was born in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He became interested in piano at age 9. His father, a carpenter, brought one home through a barter trade with a customer who was unable to pay. During this time, Folds listened to songs by Elton John and Billy Joel on AM radio and learned them by ear. During his years at Richard J. Reynolds High School in Winston-Salem, Folds played in several bands as the pianist, bassist, or drummer. Folds attended the University of Miami's Frost School of Music on a full percussion scholarship, but dropped out after having failed the jury and losing his scholarship. He devoted a lot of time to working on piano technique. "I spent maybe 6 months just running scales with a metronome like a freak," Folds said. "I suppose that did something." After leaving Miami, he returned to North Carolina and enrolled at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro for the fall semester of 1985. It was while studying at UNC that he met his accidental mentor, Robert Darnell. Folds would acknowledge the impact of Darnell on his appreciation of music in his 2019 memoir A Dream About Lightning Bugs. In the late 1980s, Folds as a bassist formed the band Majosho with longtime friends Evan Olsen and Millard Powers. The group released several locally produced records. They played their first gig at Duke University's Battle of the Bands in 1988 and won. They played at bars and fraternity parties and self-produced an EP called Party Night, 5 songs about Jesus 1988, which they sold locally. The EP has 4 songs, none of which are about Jesus. They recorded Shut Up and Listen to Majosho in 1989. It contains, among other tracks, the 4 songs from Party Night remixed and slash or re-recorded and a malign and video which Folds would later record with Ben Folds 5. The song Get That Bug from Party Night was released as a dance mix in Japan. After Majosha broke up, Folds played drums in a band called Pots and Pans with Evan Olsen on bass and Britt Snazazel on guitar and vocals, but the newly formed band lasted only about a month. Olsen and Azel formed Bus Stop with Folds' brother, Chuck Folds, on bass, and Eddie Walker on drums. Folds eventually got a music publishing deal with Nashville music executive Scott Simon, who saw Folds open for musician Mark Silvey, as well as playing bass for Silvey's band Mass Confusion, and moved to Nashville. He played drums for a short stint in Power Bill, headed by Jody Spence, Millard Powers, and Will Osley. Power Bill was later renamed The Semantics. Folds did not take a creative role in the band. He attracted interest from major labels. He ended up playing drums there as a session musician. In Nashville, I was running 8 miles a day, hanging out with my friends, walking around eating chocolate chip cookies and playing a lot of drums, which I enjoyed. Life was easy. Easy. I was never frustrated, even though I wasn't fulfilling my contract obligations. If you are failing in Nashville, at least your standard of living is nice. Nashville is a nice way to fail. Folds moved to Montclair, New Jersey, and began to act in theater troupes in New York City. He enjoyed it in 1993 to the point where he did not want to keep pursuing a musical career. He also played weekly gigs at Sin E, famous for being the cafe which had helped start Jeff Buckley's career. Soon after, Folds moved back to North Carolina. The trio of Folds, bassist Robert Sledge and drummer Darren Jesse, formed Ben Folds Five in 1994 in Chapel Hill. As Folds put it, Jeff Buckley was being signed at that time by Columbia, and I was talking to Steve, his and our guy, and somehow we knew the same people or something. Career, Ben Folds 5, 1995-2000. In 1995, Ben Folds 5 released their self-titled debut album. The debut was followed by Whatever and Ever Amen in 1997, and the Odds and Ends compilation Naked Baby Photos was released in early 1998. Whatever and Ever Amen included many singles such as Song for the Dumped, Battle of Who Could Care Less, and the band's most successful song, Brick. In 1999, the band released what was to be their final album for over a decade, the unauthorized biography of Reinhold Messner, which included the hit Army. Folds has described Ben Folds 5 as punk rock for sissies, and his lyrics often contain nuances of melancholy, self-conflict, and humorous sarcasm, often punctuated by profanity. They gained a strong following in the United Kingdom and Australia early in their career. Like many other alternative American acts, this was largely due to consistent support from national broadcasters in those countries, the BBC in Britain, and the ABC Triple J Youth Radio Network in Australia, and ABC TV music video show Rage. The group's first chart breakthrough came in the UK, when Underground made the lower reaches of the top 40, peaking at number 37. Britain was the band's strongest territory in terms of chart success, with 5 singles making the national top 40 there: Underground, Battle of Who Could Care Less, Kate, Brick, and Army, although none managed to crack the UK top 20. In Australia, Underground likewise broke the band locally, and while it did not make the area chart, it came in at no. 3 on the 1996 Triple J Hottest 100 poll broadcast on January 26, 1997. The 1998 single Brick became the group's only major chart placing in Australia, reaching number 13. It also came in at number 53 in the area Australian Top 100 for that year, and earned a Gold Record Award, while its parent album Whatever and Ever Amen peaked at number 9 and charted for 32 weeks. Following their tour in support for the unauthorized biography of Reinhold Messner, the band decided Rock in the Suburbs to Super Sonispeed Graphic 2001-2007. Folds' first solo album after the breakup of the band was Rock in the Suburbs in 2001, released on the same day as the September 11 attacks. He played nearly all the instruments, most notably guitar, which was an instrument seldom used during the Ben Folds 5 days. The Luckiest was written for the Amy Heckerling movie Loser, but the scene it was meant for was deleted. Millard Powers, Britt Snuzzle, and Jim Bogios joined him on the promotional tour of the album. Weird Al Yankovic directed and appeared in Folds' video for the album's namesake song, Rock in the Suburbs. Folds' friend and fellow musician John McCrea, lead singer of the band Cake, contributed vocals to Fred Jones Part 2. A year later, Folds released Ben Folds Live, a collection of live solo recordings. In late 2003, 2 solo EP, Speed Graphic and Sunny 16, were released. The last EP, Super D, was released in mid-Minus 2004. Songs for Silverman was released in the United States on April 26, 2005. The album returned to the trio format, featuring Jared Reynolds on bass and Lindsey Jamison on drums. This album includes the track Late, a tribute to the late singer-songwriter Elliott Smith, and also features backup vocals from Weird Al Yankovic on Time. Folds had played piano for Yankovic's song Why Does This Always Happen to Me on his Poodle Hat album. On October 24, 2006, Folds released Supersonic Speed Graphic, the LP, a compilation of songs that were originally released on the EP Sunny 16, Speed Graphic, and Super D. He announced on his MySpace blog that he planned to work on his next studio album in October 2006, although recording did not actually. On that same day, Folds became the first person to webcast a live by request concert over MySpace. The concert was complete with pranks staged ahead of time by Folds, including a drunk man falling over the balcony during Jessisland and a suicide attempt by Folds at the end. The concert is also notable for featuring a orchestra, a group of acoustic guitarists from Nashville, who accompanied Folds on some songs, as well as an impromptu ringtone orchestra made up of audience members playing their cell phones' ringtones in unison. A DVD of the performance, live at MySpace, was released on February 20, 2007. Way to Normal to Ben Folds 5 Reunion 2008-2013. During a concert at the National in Richmond, Virginia on April 11, 2008, Folds announced that he had completed his newest album and played 4 tracks from it. He played the first track, Hiroshima, at the show. He also debuted new music at an impromptu gig at the Exit/In on December 19, 2007, and at the Ann Arbor Folk Festival on January 25, 2008. Other new songs include Errant Dog, Effington Bitch Went Nuts Free Coffee, and Kylie from Connecticut. Folds played the 6th annual Langerado on March 8, 2008, and was a part of the lineup for the 2008 Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival. On July 16, 2008, an anonymous user posted what they claimed was a leak of Folds' latest album on a fan site eventually called Way to Normal Fake. The file contained 9 tracks, along with a PDF of supposed cover art, and was a mix of what appeared to be legitimate songs from Way to Normal, pastiches of dry humor and melodramatic pop interwoven with bright, energetic melodies. Folds explained on Triple J Radio a few weeks later that in one overnight session in Dublin he and the band had recorded fake versions of songs from the new album. His sources had then leaked them to the public as a light-hearted joke on his fans. Then Folds 5 reunited to perform its first concert appearance in nearly 10 years on September 18, 2008 at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill's Memorial Hall. The one-off gig was part of MySpace's Front-to-Back series, in which artists played an entire album live. The band played the unauthorized biography of Reinhold Messner. All proceeds from ticket sales benefited the charity Operation Smile, of which Folds' uncle, Jim Folds, is on the board of directors for the North Carolina chapter. Way to Normal was released on September 30, 2008 in the United States and on September 29, 2008 in the United Kingdom. It became Folds' highest charting album ever in the U.S., debuting at No. 11 on the Billboard 200. Fan reception of the album was rather mixed, with several citing the heavy use of dynamic compression as a major downfall of the album. Folds responded, releasing a more traditional mix of the album entitled Stems and Seeds, featuring various bonus tracks such as the entire leaked album and providing stems that allowed fans to create remixes. On April 28, 2009, Folds released Ben Folds Presents University a Cappella, an album consisting of college students a cappella arrangements of his music performed by some of the country's best college a cappella groups. In March 2010, a video Folds created titled Ode to Merton went viral on YouTube. In the video, Folds improvises several songs about people that he sees on the social networking site Chatroulette in the style of Merton, a YouTube creator who many initially thought was Folds himself. Folds' final solo album before his reunion, with Ben Folds 5, a collaboration with English author Nick Hornby, was entitled Lonely Avenue and was released on September 28, 2010. Announced shortly before the release of Way to Normal, the idea of the collaboration came out of the fake leak of the album released in July 2008. "We will write and record it in about 3 days, just like we did in Dublin with the fake record," Folds said. As schedules began to misalign, the plans for the album began to change and take on the form of a more major release. On June 14, 2010, Folds released the official album art via his Twitter account. From Above, the first single from the album, premiered on Richard Kingsmill's yMusic show 2010 on Triple J in Australia on July 18, 2010. From Above features Australian singer Kate Miller-Hayt on backing vocals. Folds also recorded a video song with Nick Hornby and Pamplemousse. As well, English YouTuber Charlie McDonnell was commissioned to create the music video for Folds' song Saskia Hamilton, which was uploaded on October 1, 2010. The band reunited once again in 2011 with a subsequent release of the album The Sound of the Life of the Mind, leading to a tour of their new work throughout 2012 and 2013. Work with Chamber Pop to present 2014 present. In March 2014, Folds premiered a commissioned piano concerto he composed with the Nashville Symphony Orchestra. This was followed up in 2015 with So There, an album by Folds and the yMusic Ensemble, released on September 11, 2015. The album includes 8 chamber pop songs and the piano concerto performed with the Nashville Symphony. In September 2018, Ben Folds released the song Mr. Peepers as a single commissioned by The Washington Post. The song depicts former Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein's conflict with the Republicans during the Russia investigation, with the name coming from President Trump's nickname for Rosenstein. In June 2020, Ben Folds released the song 2020, describing the difficulty of living during the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2021, Folds was reported to be appearing on the podcast Storebound. Other work in music. Work for other musicians. In addition to collaborations on Folds' own music, he often works with other musicians on their projects. In 1997, Ben Folds recorded an unreleased studio album titled Forever Valentine with Whiskeytown. Weird Al Yankovic parodied Ben Folds' style in the song Why Does This Always Happen to Me on his 2003 album Poodle Hat. According to music critic Nathan Rabin, the song amplifies the noxious self-absorption of the American character to hilarious extremes by describing a narrator who, upon hearing about a number of horrible tragedies, only complains about the minor inconveniences that affect him. Folds himself plays piano on the track. Yankovic later told the AV Club, "Ben and I are old friends at this point, and of course I sought his keyboard work for that song. So he came in and knocked it out." In 2004, Folds acted as producer, arranger, musician, and backup vocalist for William Shatner's album Has Been. Shatner was also involved in Folds' Fear of Pop project, contributing vocals to a number of songs on the album, most notably the song In Love. In August 2008, Folds played piano for friend and Japanese singer-songwriter Angela Key's song Black Glasses on her album Answer. Folds produced Amanda Palmer of the Dresden Dolls' first solo album, Who Killed Amanda Palmer, which was released September 16, 2008. He also performs on the album. Soundtracks. Ben Folds has often contributed both original and previously recorded songs to movies and television shows. The soundtrack for the 2005 animated film Hoodwinked featured Red is Blue, performed by Folds. In May 2006, Folds contributed 3 original songs to the soundtrack of Over the Hedge, titled Heist, Family of Me and Still. Included with them was a cover of the Clash song Lost in the Supermarket and a recording of Rock in the Suburbs featuring new lyrics written to complement the plot of the film. Folds' song "Rock in the Suburbs" was featured on the soundtrack for ABC sitcom Surviving Suburbia, which aired in August 2009. Folds also wrote the soundtrack for the Netflix original film Handsome, released in May 2017. Tours. After Ben Folds' Five split, Folds' first tour with a full band was to support the album Rock in the Suburbs. He was accompanied by Britt Snuzzle on guitar and electronic keyboard, Millard Powers on bass and keys, and Jim Bogios on drums. Powers and Bogios later went on to join Counting Crows. On a tour of Australia, Folds joined with solo artists Ben Queller and Ben Lee to travel the country as the Bens at the suggestion of a fan on Queller's official website. The trio also went on to record a 4-track EP together. In the summer of 2004, Folds co-headlined an American tour with fellow singer-songwriters Rufus Wainwright and Guster. Folds again performed with Wainwright and Lee in the summer of 2005 as part of the Odd Men Out tour. In addition, Folds has performed with many other notable musical names, including Weezer and Tori Amos. After seeing the Fray perform with Weezer, Folds asked the band to join him for 12 performances in 2005. Folds also performed with the West Australian Symphony Orchestra WASO in March 2005, the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra BSO in November 2005, the Sydney Symphony at the Sydney Opera House, Adelaide Symphony Orchestra, Western Australian Symphony Orchestra, Melbourne Symphony Orchestra, and the Queensland Orchestra. Folds performed with the North Carolina Symphony in March 2010 and the Utah Symphony Orchestra in July 2010. A DVD of Folds playing with the West Australian Symphony Orchestra was released in December 2005. On May 9, 2007, Folds performed with the Boston Pops Orchestra. The orchestra's performance was marred when a fight broke out between two audience members in the balcony, though Folds had not yet taken the stage. After his MySpace performance on October 24, 2006, Folds' tour performances began to feature a synthesizer, which he uses in many of the songs when played live. The synthesizer is a Red Nord Lead Roman II synthesizer. During his concerts, Folds frequently performs two of his concert traditions, palm smashing the keys and throwing his stool at the piano. In March 2007, Folds went on a headlining tour, which opened on March 24 at Assumption College in Worcester, Massachusetts. In the summer of 2007, he performed as the primary opener for John Mayer during his Continuum 38-day summer tour. During this tour, Mayer sometimes joined Folds on the song Narcolepsy, playing synth. At various concerts throughout the tour, parents of young children going to see Mayer would file complaints about Folds' lyrics. Folds responded by posting on his website, "We have kids too, but we don't take them out to rock shows that last until 11 p.m." On March 29, 2008, Folds played the Cage Center Arena at Berry College in Mount Berry, Georgia. During contract negotiations, he was asked by the administration to not play one of his songs due to its explicit lyrics. Folds refused, citing artistic freedom. On May 9, 2008, Folds played his first completely solo show in years at Western Connecticut State University due to the fact that his bassist Jared Reynolds was with his wife, who had just given birth to their first son. Folds made a brief solo tour of Australia during August 2009. At one of his sold-out Sydney Opera House concerts, he was joined on stage for several songs by Amy Mann, who was also touring Australia at the time. At the Palais Theatre in Melbourne, Missy Higgins joined him for You Don't Know Me, a single from Way Too Normal that Folds originally sang with Regina Spektor. In 2010, Folds went on a brief tour of North America called Ben Folds and a Piano, where he played solo other than with Zach Williams or Kate Miller-Haight and her husband Care Nuttall as supporting musicians. A small number of copies that were pre-ordered also included signed manuscripts by Folds and Hornby. In April 2011, Folds collaborated with Amanda Palmer, Neil Gaiman, and Damien Kilash as A Tonight to Write record and produce 8 songs in 8 hours, which were then available online within 24 hours, as well as being performed once on its world tour as part of the Rethink Music conference. Folds reunited with Ben Folds 5 to play the Mountain Jam Music Festival on June 2, 2012. This was the first time the band had performed live together since 2008. Ben Folds performed at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. for the 2012 Presidential Scholar in the Arts ceremony with several of Young Art's best alumni. As part of their 2013 Last Summer on Earth tour, Ben Folds 5 joined the Baronate Ladies along with Guster for 30 dates across North America, beginning June 17 at the Verizon Theater in Dallas, Texas, and ending at the 2013 Celebrate Brooklyn Festival. From November 22 to 24, 2013, Folds took part in Performing Arts American Voices Festival hosted by Renee Fleming at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., which featured American jazz, country, Broadway, gospel, popular, and classical music. With Sarah Bareilles, he conducted a pop/rock master class for aspiring singers. During the concert series, he premiered his new song, I'm Not the Man, with the National Symphony Orchestra and sang Not the Same with Bareilles. On January 20, 2014, Folds performed at the El Rey Theater, Los Angeles, in support of the David Lynch Foundation's celebration of Ringo Starr's lifetime of peace and love. From July 2017 to early 2018, Ben Folds went on a tour titled the Paper Airplane Tour, in which audience members were encouraged to throw paper airplanes with song requests onto the stage halfway through the concert. Folds would then randomly select from these requests from his extensive catalog and perform them solo. Other ventures. Folds is an avid photographer and cites it as more than just his hobby. His work was featured by National Geographic during the 2010 Tennessee floods. Folds made a brief guest appearance on a 1996 Space Ghost Coast to Coast episode, Surprise, on Cartoon Network. This marks one of Ben's first non-musical TV appearances. In 2001, Folds was an inaugural member of the Independent Music Awards judging panel to support independent artists. Starting in December 2009, Folds was featured as a judge on NBC a cappella competition The Sing-Off alongside Nicole Scherzinger and Sean Stockman. In the Season 1 finale, Folds showcased his talents and played the piano background on Why Can't We Be Friends, sung by the two finalist groups, the Beelzebubs from Tufts University near Boston and Nota from San Juan, Puerto Rico. He again returned for the show's second season in December 2010, the third season in September 2011 alongside Stockman and Sarah Bareilles, and a fourth season with Stockman and Jewel in December 2013. The show featured several performances of songs from Ben's first solo album. Folds has also taken 3 acting roles in his career. He made a cameo appearance in the 2013 film We're the Millers, playing himself as a piano teacher, although the scene did not make the theatrical cut. In January 2014, Folds had a brief appearance in the TV show Community, in episode Basic Intergluteal Numismatics S5-E3 as Professor Boblets, a botany teacher who secretly grows marijuana in his office, as well as contributing the song that closes out the episode as Crack Bandit. This led to him taking a recurring role in seasons 3, 4, and 5 of the FXX comedy You're the Worst, playing himself as an alcoholic. Since May 2017, he has been serving as the first artistic advisor to the National Symphony Orchestra at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. In June 2019, Folds launched a podcast titled Arts Vote 2020 with Ben Folds, with the stated goal of getting every candidate in the 2020 United States presidential election to have a one-on-one 30-minute conversation. This was followed up in April 2021 when Folds launched a podcast titled Lightning Bugs. In the podcast, Folds discusses creativity with guests from a variety of backgrounds and fields and writes a song with them at the end of every episode. Guests have included frequent collaborators William Shatner and Nick Hornby, as well as other guests such as Mo Willems, Bob Saget, and John Baptiste. Personal life. Folds' personal life has inspired several of his songs. The hit single Brick, co-written with Darren Jesse, was based on the experience of Folds' girlfriend having an abortion while they were in high school. Folds initially refused to discuss the story behind Brick, thinking it was too serious for a pop song, but he eventually confirmed the inspiration for the song during a show on his Ben Folds Live tour. His telling of the story is included on the Brick track on the album. Folds leased RCA Studio in Nashville, Tennessee beginning in 2002 and was pivotal to the preservation of the historic building during its developer controversy in 2014. His efforts, along with others, led to the creation of the Music Industry Coalition. Folds supports the Port Adelaide Power in the Australian Football League. Folds supported Bernie Sanders for president in the 2016 presidential election. As of 2016, he lived in Santa Monica, California. He also owned a residence in Hudson, New York from 2016 until it was sold in December 2020. As of March 2020, Folds is temporarily residing in Australia, where he was touring when travel restrictions due to the COVID-19 pandemic prevented him from traveling home. Marriages and children. Folds has been married 5 times and divorced 4 times. He met his first wife, Anna Goodman, in first grade at Moore Elementary School, Winston-Salem, and was married to her from 1987 to 1992. She co-wrote several Ben Folds 5 songs, including Alice Childress, The Last Polka, Smoke, Kate, and Lullaby. Folds has since described Goodman as his oldest friend and the person who originally inspired him to play music. Folds was then briefly married to Kate Rosen in 1996. Folds met Frally Hines, an Australian, in January 1998, and they were married in May 1999 in Adelaide, South Australia, making their home there and later releasing a song about the city titled Adelaide. 2 months after their wedding, Frally gave birth to twins Louis Francis July 22, 1999, and Gracie Scott July 23, 1999, the former inspiring his song Still Fighting It, and the latter inspiring his song Gracie. Hines also sang lead en route to this on Fear of Pop's 1998 album Volume 1. Folds and Hines were divorced in 2006. Folds married Flora Stanbrook on November 17, 2007, at the Venetian in Las Vegas. They were based in Nashville. Folds and Stanbrook ended their marriage sometime in 2011. In 2012, Folds stated that as much as I love the idea of being married, it's not for me. Folds married Emma Sandall, a former Royal Ballet dancer, sometime before July 2020. They have been together since at least 2016. Awards and recognition. Folds received a 2002 Recording Industry Association of America RIA Gold Record Award for Ben Folds 5's Whatever and Ever Amen 1998. He was inducted into the North Carolina Music Hall of Fame in 2011. October 29, 2015, Folds was initiated as an honorary brother of the men's music fraternity Phi Mu Alpha Sinfonia at the University of Miami. On August 21, 2018, Folds received a star on the Music City Walk of Fame in Nashville, Tennessee. Discography. Rock in the Suburbs 2001, Songs for Silverman 2005, Way to Normal 2008. Filmography.